If your child has ever had a screaming meltdown in public, and you felt every eye in the room looking at you, what I'm about to tell you might completely change the way you see those moments. Because most parents think a meltdown is bad behavior, but neuroscience tells us something very different. And the truth is, if you respond the wrong way, you can accidentally make the meltdown worse. But if you respond the right way, you can help your child calm down faster, build emotional resilience, and strengthen your relationship at the exact same time. Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah, and today I'm going to show you 5 psychology-backed techniques that can help stop a meltdown without yelling, without threatening, and without turning it into a power struggle. Now, before we talk about solutions, we need to talk about what's actually happening. Because honestly, this is where so many loving parents get stuck. Most parents see a child screaming and think, "My child isn't listening. My child is being difficult. My child is out of control." And honestly, that's understandable, because from the outside, that's exactly what it looks like. But here's the thing, a meltdown is not a child giving you a hard time. It's a child having a hard time. I remember working with a mother who told me, "Dr. Sarah, I feel like I've tried everything." She had read the parenting books. She had watched the parenting videos. She genuinely loved her son. But every time he melted down, she felt powerless. And honestly, that's exactly how many parents feel. Not because they're failing, but because nobody ever taught them what a meltdown really is. What's actually happening has a lot more to do with biology than behavior. During a meltdown, your child's emotional brain takes over. And when that happens, logic moves into the background. And if you've ever found yourself thinking, "Why isn't my child listening right now?" The answer is surprisingly simple, because listening isn't the main job their brain is trying to do. Survival is. Their nervous system is overloaded. Their emotions are bigger than their ability to manage them. And that's why the first technique is called containment. And honestly, this may be the most powerful tool in this entire video. Containment means becoming the calmest person in the room, not the loudest, not the most controlling, the calmest. Imagine your child is caught in an emotional storm. The goal is not to fight the storm. The goal is to become a safe harbor inside it. Stay close, stay calm, stay present, because children borrow emotional regulation from the adults around them. Your nervous system becomes a model for theirs. And when you remain steady, your child begins to feel safer. Not instantly, but gradually. Little by little, their breathing slows, their muscles relax. The intensity starts to come down. That's why I want you to remember one simple rule. Never match your child's volume. If they are at a 10, you stay at a 2. If they are overwhelmed, you become predictable. If they are losing control, you become the source of stability. And once a child begins to feel safe, something important happens. They become more open to connection, more open to trust, more open to being understood. Which brings us to the second technique, validation. Because behind every tantrum, every scream, every tear, and every emotional explosion, there is usually a feeling hiding underneath. And that feeling is trying to tell us something. So let's talk about what that message might actually be. Because every behavior is communication. And once we understand that, everything starts to change. Now here's where many parents get confused. Validation does not mean agreeing with the behavior. It does not mean giving your child whatever they want. And it definitely does not mean rewarding a meltdown. Honestly, if that were true, every psychologist in the world would be creating spoiled children. And thankfully, that's not how emotions work. Validation simply means acknowledging the feeling underneath the behavior. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And the truth is, this small shift can completely change the way your child experiences difficult emotions. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever been upset, frustrated, or overwhelmed, and had someone immediately try to fix the problem before they understood how you felt? It's frustrating, right? Because before people want solutions, they usually want understanding. Children are exactly the same. In fact, they may need that understanding even more than adults do. When your child is melting down, their behavior is usually the visible part of a much deeper experience. Maybe they're exhausted. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they're disappointed. Maybe they're overstimulated. Maybe something happened 3 hours ago. And this is simply the moment when their emotional bucket finally overflowed. You know, one of the biggest mistakes parents make is focusing only on the behavior they can see. The screaming, the crying, the kicking, the refusal. But behavior is often just the surface. Underneath that surface, there is usually a feeling. And underneath that feeling, there is usually a need. That's why one of the most powerful phrases you can learn is this: I see you're really frustrated right now.
I know it is hard.
I know this feels hard. Or, you really wanted that. Or even, you're disappointed. Notice what you're not doing. You're not saying the behavior is okay. You're not giving in. You're not negotiating. You're simply helping your child feel seen. And honestly, feeling seen is one of the deepest emotional needs human beings have. Children included. Actually, especially children. Because when children feel misunderstood, their emotions often get louder. But when children feel understood, their brains become less defensive. Their bodies begin to relax. And little by little, their nervous system starts moving away from survival mode. There's actually some fascinating neuroscience behind this. When we help children put words to what they're feeling, we activate parts of the brain responsible for emotional regulation. In simple terms, naming the feeling helps calm the feeling. Psychologists sometimes call this name it to tame it. Simple, but incredibly powerful. Now, does that mean every meltdown instantly disappears? Of course not. I wish it were that easy. Honestly, every parent wishes it were that easy. But parenting isn't about controlling emotions. It's about teaching children how to move through emotions safely. And validation helps build that skill over time. Because every moment of emotional understanding is also a moment of emotional learning. But sometimes, words alone are not enough. Sometimes a child needs something even more powerful than language. Something that communicates safety before a single word is spoken. Something biological. And that's exactly where the third technique comes in. The physical anchor. Now, before we go any further, I want to be very clear about something. This technique is not about forcing physical contact. And it's definitely not about restraining a child who doesn't want to be touched. What we're talking about is safe, welcomed, reassuring connection. Because sometimes, when emotions become overwhelming, words simply aren't enough. Think about the last time you were going through something difficult. Maybe you lost someone. Maybe you received bad news. Maybe you were completely overwhelmed by stress. What helped more? A perfectly crafted speech or a reassuring hand on your shoulder? Most of us know the answer. Because human beings are wired for connection, and children are no exception. In fact, young children rely on physical connection even more than adults do. Their nervous systems are still developing. Their ability to self-regulate is still developing. And sometimes, the fastest path to emotional safety isn't through language. It's through connection. A gentle hand, a hug, sitting close, holding their hand, or simply being physically present without asking anything from them. And the fascinating part is, this isn't just psychology, it's biology. When children experience safe and comforting physical connection, their brains begin releasing chemicals associated with safety and bonding. Their heart rate starts slowing down. Their breathing becomes more regular. Their bodies receive a powerful message. You are safe. And honestly, that's often the message a child needs most during a meltdown. Not behave better, not stop crying, not calm down, but simply, you are safe. Now let me share something that surprises many parents. Sometimes a child will reject comfort at first. You reach out, and they pull away. You offer a hug, and they say no. And parents often assume, well, I guess they don't want me. But here's the thing. Children in emotional distress often send mixed signals. Part of them wants connection. Part of them is overwhelmed by emotion. So don't take it personally. Stay available, stay calm, stay nearby. Let your child know the door to connection remains open, because your calm presence is still helping, even when it doesn't immediately look like it. Now let's move to the fourth technique. And honestly, This one can prevent a surprising number of meltdowns before they even start. Choice. You see, many meltdowns are not actually about the thing parents think they're about. Sometimes they're about powerlessness. Sometimes they're about feeling trapped. Sometimes they're about feeling like everything is happening to them instead of with them. And let's be honest, most of us don't like feeling powerless. Children don't either. That's why giving appropriate choices can be incredibly effective. Notice I said appropriate choices, not unlimited choices, not letting children run the household, simple choices, healthy choices, structured choices. For example, instead of saying, "Put your shoes on right now," you might say, "Would you like to wear the blue shoes or the red shoes?" Instead of, "We're leaving." You might say, "Would you like to walk to the car or hop like a bunny?" The destination stays the same, but suddenly, your child has some ownership over the journey. And ownership creates cooperation, because children are far more likely to participate in a decision when they feel included in it. And that's something we can all relate to. Now, the fifth and final technique may be the most misunderstood of all. It's called time in. Most parents have heard of time out, but time in works very differently. Time out says, "Go away until you calm down." Time in says, "I'll stay with you while you calm down." And honestly, that's a powerful difference, because emotional regulation is not a skill children magically develop on their own. It's something they learn through repeated experiences of co-regulation. They learn it from us. They learn it through connection, through safety, through presence, through thousands of moments where a calm adult helps them navigate big emotions. And over time, something incredible happens. The skills that once came from you slowly become skills that belong to them. And that's the real goal. Not raising children who never struggle with emotions, but raising children who know what to do when those emotions arrive. So let's quickly put all 5 strategies together. Containment, validation, the physical anchor, choice, and time in. 5 simple tools. 5 powerful ways to help a child through one of the hardest moments of their day. And before we finish, there's one final thing I want every parent watching this to remember. You don't have to be a perfect parent to raise an emotionally healthy child. You just have to keep showing up, keep learning, and keep trying. Because the fact that you're watching a video like this already tells me something important. You care, and that matters more than you know. If you found this video helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe and join our community here at Dr. Sarah. Every week, we talk about child psychology, emotional development, and practical parenting tools that actually work in real life. And before you go, tell me something in the comments. What parenting challenge is stressing you out the most right now? Is it tantrums, bedtime battles, screen time, listening problems, big emotions, or something completely different? I read your comments, and many of my future videos are inspired by the questions parents ask right here. So let me know. What's the biggest parenting struggle you're facing today? And remember, you're not raising a perfect child. You're raising a human being, and you're doing better than you think. I'll see you in the next video.